Can you tell I haven't slept in 24 hours? 24. This is the shot. The next build of my neighborhood series, blending these shots together for an animated collage. If you want to see the full sped up version, head over to my Patreon. And before I begin, I just want to say thank you to YouTube for featuring my Time Terrarium piece. That course is my baby, and you can watch the full process on YouTube. Did you know we ain't gonna have no tigers left? I'm not scared of not the tigers. Tigers and baubles and vines. These kitties are around some of the 13,000 left in the world due to climate change and widespread poaching. Mind you, the neighborhood is not about building a perfect world, but a transitioning one. See, despite my Sweeney Todd fandom days,
the years no doubt have changed me.
I had no clue that barbers been the truth.
Desperate measures are called for.
The judge, who banned all surgeries, I don't know, because bodies are icky and maybe just a little bit cursed or something, decided one day that the only ones who could feasibly handle the job were morticians and barbers. Could you imagine one day going to work like, girl, what you got? Oh yeah, I'm gonna do me a little blowout and some bloodletting.
You sir, two sir.
Kinda crafty. Deemed barber surgeons, these competitive Sweeney Toddians would lay the foundation at a time when the normal medicinal route was usually the classic exorcism. And I've learned a lot about barbers since my husband became one. I'm Mrs. Manta Barber. Not only the remarkable craftsmanship side, but also the community aspect where everyone comes together to learn about self-care. So for this design, I'll combine the essence of barbers with the ever-blooming natural world. I've already been eyeing some shots on Unsplash, and I think a storefront perspective is the way to go for this style. See, I like to practice the composition in Procreate mostly because it's fast and easy. Then when I'm ready, the official file begins in Photoshop. This piece took around 11 pictures to complete, starting with the outside of this yellow storefront. From this view, it has just about everything I need, but I will have to move a few things around to add more room. These next layers set up the window box with more flowers. I feel like sunflowers are just pretty enough for the center without going too girly. Then I'll move on to the vines to cover up the siding. These overhang vines are great for adding more drama, especially to bring attention to the window. And I'll make sure to fill it out with some more leaves. Then comes the barber pole and our barbers. This is when I try to be a little bit more intentional with the masking. In the beginning, it's not as big of a deal, but for the barbers and clients, I do want to make sure everything is clean and tidied up before I color. My last piece, Bodega Jardín, included this keychain as a fun Easter egg for the shop. After playing around with some graffiti, I decided to add it to the shot. If we look at a comparison real quick, they give that great urban feel with just a few more details. And I also get to add a couple extra symbols to the comp.
looking heavy, it's funny how 91 can my dog. Yeah, I'm tired being humble. Enjoy my life, even with the odds against me, you know
I made the brand using a few layer styles and the different suits from a traditional card deck. To set the mood for a nighttime scene, I'll go with this deep purple for the actual storefront. Then I'll reflect some of that light onto the sign and drop these spotlights in for a little more balance. Shadow is next. This will establish the lighting and bring weight to everything. The overhead lights draw more shadows to the underside of each subject, while the neon sign adds more interesting lighting to the leaves and building. Now this next part takes forever. I have no idea how many leaves there are, but trust me, there's a lot. And for each leaf, I'll pretty much repaint the color and structure by hand.
Don't tell me I can have it when I want it. Don't tell me I can have it.
Going to the flower box every now and then to paint more petals and flowers. This is what I usually call the cleanup layer, because you'll definitely need to go over some of the messiness in the background to balance out the rest of the composition. So high opacity brushes and a lot of patience will definitely help. I also thought it would be dope to add a little sleeve of barber tattoos. We got like a little pair of scissors, what is it called? A razor. And all of these details may seem like a lot at first, but it really pays off in the end. Eventually you can shift the color scheme with selective color and levels, because once the color is set, you can go in and flesh out those details. And all these different colors will affect the leaves. I like to redistribute some of that light from the nearest sources, but all that original graininess also shows through, so I'll paint over what I can to cover that up. When it's time to get back to the window, all I really have to do is relight the people and paint the tiger's hair. I always leave white highlights for last. I mean, just look at how they sharpen everything up. Now it takes a good dozen or so hours before we get here, but when we do, everything just lights up. So, remember our test run? Here's the final design.
Swinging through the street light. Blessings coming down, it's for me, right? Doing what I want, it's a me now.